All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we're going to talk about Bill Belichick. Some reports coming out. He still has a desire to coach, which we know that. Trying to make a comeback in 2025. So yeah, he intends to return as an NFL coach in 2025. He's staying engaged in football during the year, of course. He's going to be on Inside the NFL, the Pat McAfee Show, the Manningcast. We've gone over that. And I talked about Andrew Perloff and his comments about how Belichick's a hypocrite when it comes to joining the media. But, yeah, he is trying to, well, this is one thing that he's trying to do. He's trying to pursue the all-time wins record, which is held by Don Shula. He's got 328 wins. Belichick has 302. So he needs 26 more to break the record. He's really close. And I mean, yeah, when you're that close to breaking a record, I mean, you want an opportunity to try to do that. And wherever he ends up, I mean, it's got to be with the team that's in a position to, finish with a good record, make the playoffs. I don't know. I mean, you look at some of the Super Bowl contenders. I mean, the Chiefs. I mean, Andy Reid's not going anywhere. The 49ers, Kyle Shanahan's not going anywhere. He's got to go for some of these other teams that, are playoff teams, but not necessarily, Super Bowl contenders. I don't think he's going to a team that's going to be rebuilding. That's not going to happen. So it's going to be interesting how it all plays out. But, I mean, I think we know all along Belichick wants to come back and coach. I think it definitely for me was surprising that he didn't end up with a job. I mean, I kind of understood why. Because of his age and, how the Patriots' final couple of years went with him as the coach. I mean, it was just like a downward spiral. Last year was not good, 4-13, which, I mean, you hear the Patriots and 4-13 in the same sentence, and you're like, what year is it? Well, it's 2023. There's no more Tom Brady, no more Rob Gronkowski. This is what ended up happening. You had Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones, starting at quarterback. And now Mac Jones is a backup quarterback in Jacksonville. It's weird. It's weird because you just, and that's been a popular word today, is just weird. That's the word I can give you. That's the word of the day. But, I mean, you go your whole life, I'm 24 years old, and you watch the Patriots, and they're a team that made the playoffs every year. Up until COVID, the pandemic. But they made the playoffs every year. They're always in the AFC Championship game pretty much. I mean, there was rare times where they weren't. There was that year the Ravens beat them in the wild card round. But, and then also you had Brady's last year in New England with the Titans upsetting them in New England in Foxborough. I'm trying to think. Well, because let's see, 2013. Well, yeah, 2012 they were in the champion. 2011. Let's not forget the Jets. I'm all over the place right now. The Jets upset them in Foxborough in the 2011 season. But you had 2011 when they made it to the Super Bowl against the Giants. They were in the championship game. They were in the championship game against the Ravens. They lost that. 2013 against the Broncos. 2014, they won the Super Bowl. 2015, championship game. 2016, they won the Super Bowl. 2017, they lost the Super Bowl. 2018, they won the Super Bowl. Like, they were in the AFC Championship game 8 years in a row. That's crazy. And now look at what Mahomes is doing. He's trying to do the same thing. Now, there were years that the Patriots did not win. There's years the Chiefs didn't win. But it's just, it's impressive what they were able to do. And they had two separate dynasties. The early 2000s, which, I was too young to remember those. But that happened. Then you had that long gap where, a 10-year gap, they didn't win anything. And then, my prime years of watching football, they were back. That Malcolm Butler play jump-started the next dynasty. The second dynasty with the Patriots. Well, that was the game-winning play. I mean, I'm not saying that, he was, the reason, he's the main reason for this dynasty, the second dynasty. No, we know it's the coach and 12, number 12, Tom Brady, so, but I just like to, I'm just saying that Because they were very close to losing that Super Bowl. And they should have lost that Super Bowl. They should have lost the Super Bowl against the Falcons, but they didn't. They didn't. Got to give them credit. They didn't. The Rams Super Bowl, I can't really... That was one of the most boring games I've ever watched in my life. What was the final score of that? 10-3? 13-3? Whatever it was. It was bad. I never thought I'd see a score like that in the Super Bowl. Well, we did. We did. But, yeah, I mean, Belichick deserves another shot. And I said this week. I mean, there's no reason why he shouldn't get another chance. And he's going to get another opportunity. It's just, who is that going to be? And I've brought up a couple of teams in the NFC East because I remember there was an article that came out and said like he would coach, any team in the NFC East. And there's a chance he could because, look, the Giants with Brian Dable, how is that going to all pan out after this year? The Cowboys, Mike McCarthy could be out. If the Eagles don't perform up to expectations, Nick Sirianni could be out. And, I mean, I take Belichick over Dan Quinn. So there's that division. I don't know. I don't know what other spots. I don't know what other spots could open up. The Dolphins, maybe. If Mike McDaniel doesn't get it done this year. Yeah, he's going to get an opportunity. It's just, where is that going to be? At least he's going to have an opportunity to go in and get interviewed. He's definitely going to get interviewed. My thing is this with Belichick. Is he going to adjust? Is he going to adjust? Is he going to learn, like, and I've said this, is he going to learn to maybe, like, take a step back, bring in other football people to make, other decisions, like with the draft, free agency. Let them control that. Also, when it comes to, the coaching staff, see, when they brought in Joe Judge and Matt Patricia to be co-offensive coordinators, I never understood that. I never understood that. Matt Patricia, yes, was a head coach with the Lions for a little bit, but before that, he was a defensive coordinator. Joe Judge, was a head coach a little bit with the Giants, but was not good, putting it lightly. But he was a special teams guy. Why are you making those two guys offensive coordinators? That didn't make sense to me. And then you brought in Bill O'Brien last year, and that didn't really pan out. Josh McDaniels is probably the best offensive coordinator the Patriots have had in a while. Well, of that era. Because, they won. I mean, well, it also helped that they had Brady. I mean, I think Brady could have, Brady doesn't need an offensive coordinator. Brady is the offensive coordinator. But Mac Jones did well. He was a Pro Bowler. Whether, you want to say it or not, he was a Pro Bowler his rookie season, and Josh McDaniels was still the offensive coordinator for the Patriots. So, that could be who Belichick brings in, if he ends up getting another job. But, yeah, I think for Belichick, like, maybe you put together your coaching staff, but I think you let other football people make decisions. And what did we hear out of Atlanta? It was going to be like a power struggle. Belichick was going to want a lot of control, and he wasn't willing to give that up. And it seemed like that was part of the reason why he didn't get the job in Atlanta. And they opted to hire Raheem Morris. I think Belichick really has to take a step back and realize, I got to be the coach. Let other football people make the other decisions. Let me coach this team. Let me work with whoever I got to work with. Because, look, I mean, you look at that offense, yeah, you had Tom Brady, you had Rob Gronkowski, but, you look at the superstar receiver. Did they really have a superstar receiver? Randy Moss they had, right? So you bring in a guy like that, and he did coach Antonio Brown for a game. I mean, listen, Julian Edelman had a solid career, but he's not a superstar receiver. He was a superstar in the playoffs, and he was a productive player, and Edelman was probably one of my favorite players, watching him because of how tough he was, and, especially, that AFC Championship game against the Chiefs where, he's getting hit constantly, but he's catching all those third downs in the clutch by Brady, but Edelman was not a superstar wide receiver. Like I said, in my lifetime, they had Randy Moss, they had Antonio Brown for a game. I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anybody else. I mean, Brandon Cooks was not like a superstar, but Brandon Cooks was a very good receiver. And still is productive, but, he's on the downside of, his career. But, yeah, I mean, the Patriots offense was not filled with, you had Brady, you had Gronk, like I said, but, they didn't have, like, the trio of, Hall of Famers at wide receiver. No, you had Amendola, who was productive. You had Chris Hogan. But, I mean, the years that they had, like, Randy Moss, they didn't win anything. But, that's the thing. Belichick, I think, can handle whatever a team brings in. But I think he's got to change his philosophy a little bit. And I can relate that to Tom Coughlin. Tom Coughlin, before they won the first Super Bowl with him, he was stuck in his own ways. Now, obviously, he still had some of that, but he did kind of change his behavior. He did change some things. He was a little bit looser, and that kind of helped the team out. And look what happened. They ended up winning a Super Bowl. So I think you got to keep your core values, but you got to adapt. You got to learn to adapt, and I think that's what Belichick needs to do, is really what I'm trying to say. If he could do that, that'll definitely go a long way for him. But just don't say, if you get hired, oh, man, I watched tape of this team all of last year, when you really didn't. That's what Mike McCarthy did, and he ended up lying about it. But we'll see. Let me know what you guys think, though. What team would be a good fit for Belichick if he does end up getting another job after this year? What job do you think will be open that he'll take? So we're going to take our final break. When we come back, we'll talk about Josh Jacobs, some comments that he made about the Raiders, and that will end off the show for today. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.